Hello everyone, I am Sima POUYA. I'm working in the Department of Landscape Architecture in the University of INONU, Turkey. The healing properties of nature are natural environmental values, such as vegetation, water resource, birds, and other living things. For children, nature is seen as a healthy and healing environment in their daily lives. Nature is the food for the human sensory system, which is our mechanism for gaining experience in life, perceiving, and understanding our physical environment. Today, I'm going to talk about the therapy technique in open space, especially the applicable and curative methods on children with disabilities. Working as a teacher in landscape architecture in Turkey, I realized the lack of nature-based therapy methods, so I started working by concentrating on these issues. I wanted to present the results of some of our projects conduct on disabled children in outdoors. According to the result of the research conducted by the Prime Ministry Administration for the Disabled on December 2002, the rate of the disabled population in the total population is 12.29%. According to the research conducted by the Turkish Statistical Institute on the problems and expectation of the disabled, showed the children in the 0 to 6 age group have a respectively language and speech disabilities, hearing impaired, mentally disabled, or typically disabled, multiple disabled, chronic illness, mental and emotional disabilities, and visually impaired. Unfortunately, the problems could not be solved due to the inability to adequately explain and understanding the law and regulations designed to facilitate the lives of disabled. Laws and regulations designed to facilitate the lives of the disabled on this country have made the lives of disabled people more difficult. Most of the children with disabilities cannot go to the parks, playgrounds, and green areas in the cities. They cannot participate in plays like other normal children, and they become more lonely day by the day. The biggest problem of these children are the realization of designs that do not comply with the universal design criteria, difficulties in terms of transportation and accessibility. In addition, they have been the disturbing attitudes and gaze of the societies. For these reasons, the place where children with disabilities can attend the most are places just such as special education schools, rehabilitation and care centers, and hospitals. Recently, the Turkish government has been making some minor developments like the design and some barrier-free playgrounds and etc. However, these are not sufficient for children with disabilities, and similar practices need to be increased. By the late 20th century, the idea of nature and healing was totally lost. Nature landscaping came to the merely portrait as a green sort of decoration. Starting from the 1990s, the idea of healing gardens once again gained interest and began to appear in the research field of sustainable landscape. Today, the aspect of healing gardens is gaining its popularity due to the harsh living and environmental conditions that people are suffering from all over the world. Therapeutic methods in nature are developing within the scope of healing gardens, and the most important of these therapies, especially applied to children with disabilities, are horticultural therapy, play therapy, music therapy, animal therapy, and hydrotherapy. My first research on the healing aspects of nature and the disabled children comes back to my doctorate thesis done in 2014 in Karadeniz Technical University. The purpose of this study was to determine the effects of the natural environment values of the natural area on the children with cerebral palsy. Natural and green areas in Ankara city are not useful enough for the disabled children because children with cerebral palsy cannot benefit from gardens and parks, and there are a lot of reasons for that. If I count them, access problem, for example, families have access problem due the fact that these parks and natural areas are usually distant. Design problems of the natural area, especially road, are not convenient for wheelchair and users who need a walking stick. Annoying looks and reaction of the people around is another problems of these people. The study area was the Lake Eymer recreational area, which is among the privileged areas for increasing urban life quality and creating an image for the city, as well as its ecological contribution with its near environment to the city ecosystem. In order to define the healing and treating effects of the natural environment value of the Lake Emir on the children with cerebral palsy, natural factors of the area, existing area usage, and socioeconomic structure examined, and the study was conducted step by step. One step was systematically observation, two step was development, observation forms, and three steps was a survey. Before starting the observation study, all the places in the area and activities conducted were explained in order to examine the area and its surroundings. The activities to be conducted by the children with cerebral palsy were determined. So, six sub-places were chosen in the area. The criteria of the sub-places were sensory stimulation, physical stimulation, the possibility of improvement of social skills, one area for each day, and an observation study for approximately 2 to 3 hours in each area was conducted. Preparation had been made before starting the study, and cooperation was demanded from the staffs in the area for a comfortable atmosphere in the chosen sub places. Sailing with birds and fish and take a picture at the lakeside in the area 1, orienting activities in the area 2, ride a bike, area 3, horse riding, area 4 for physical stimulation, recreation in the forest and the flower picking for sensory stimulation in the area 5, playing ball for the improvement of the social skills in the area 6. The data get from the notation chart were evaluated using the ArcGIS program. By this program, original studies were carried out and behavioral maps were created. After providing disabled children the opportunity to join the application and conduct different activities in the area of Lake Eymer and its surroundings for 6 days, development form was prepared in order to evaluate the effects of this kind of natural areas on the children with cerebral palsy. This form was given to the 7 teachers working in the related special education schools, and they were asked to observe the student taking part in the study during the lessons and in the classroom. After 2-week observation of the teachers, these observation forms were filled. In these forms, improvements are made in 5 separate aspects: motor developments, cognitive development, language development, social and emotional development, and self-care skills. As a result of the on-site detection during the research, it was observed that the restaurant and cafe entrance, horse riding and ball playing area, forested area, roads, and toilet entrance in the area were not suitable for all users, especially for disabled people. The case study area is not arranged for disabled use. Therefore, a design approach that can appeal to everyone should be adopted and restrictions should be minimized. In addition, it has been determined that the lighting, which will provide guidance and security in the evening, is quite inadequate. It is necessary for all individuals to move freely in the area in a safe and controlled manner and to establish a connection between the space. Vehicle, bicycle, and pedestrian routes should be separated. All activity area must be made available to all users. Another research that I did in 2019 was about establishing the disabled children and gardening. The aim of this study was for landscape architecture students to communicate with disabled children, understanding these children, and participate in gardening with them. The other aim of this study was to determine the reaction of children with disabilities to gardening and the limitation of the subject. The result of this study explained that children with different disabilities want to be involved in gardening in the garden of rehabilitation centers. It has been observed that these children participate voluntarily and spend time in the field without getting bored. In addition, this study has been a good experience for students of landscape architecture, and they have a better understanding of children with disabilities. Essential development techniques are used in healing garden design for stress orient disease. And the most important of these techniques has been the horticultural therapy techniques. The aim of this study was to apply the individual horticultural therapy technique to disabled children receiving education at INONU University, Special Education and Rehabilitation Center, and to investigate the quality of life and psychological improvement effect on disabled children. In this direction, a quasi-experimental design study without a single group pre-test, post-test control groups was used, and an individual garden therapy study was applied to a total of 10 disabled children between the age of 5 to 18 who were educated in the study area. A counselor, as a horticultural therapist, took care of each disabled experiment child, and during the entire session, the relevant counselor took care of and observed his or her kind. In addition, the consultants recorded all development and observation with photographs or by taking notes. In this study, the standings-based model was chosen from the garden therapy models. The most common of these was, okay, let me explain the result of these studies. There are kind of a result, for example, reduction of the feeling of the sadness and anger, worries about the future, and difficulties in sleeping. And this subject, there are a lot of improvements. According to the results of the social reciprocity scale before and after individual horticultural therapy, it was explained that the most social developments that occurred were improvement in participation in group activities, being able to share feeling with others, improving relationship with someone new, and appearing to have self-confidence in the relationship with others. Studies on the rate of autism spectrum disorder indicate that while the rate of autism among newborn babies was 1 to 168 until recently, this rate nowadays is 1 to 68 recently. This shows that the number of individuals affected by autism is high. Another research related to my master's student thesis that was done in 2021. The aim of this study is to test the feasibility of sample therapy method in an open area for children with autism spectrum disorder and investigate its effect on the development of social skills. In addition, the reorganization of sample areas where children with disabilities receive education and treatment, and the introduction of design proposal for integrating them with sample therapy in the open area have been one of the other objectives of this study. Play is a creative form of therapy to work with children in a non-verbal manner. Sample therapy helps the person develop social skills and act as a therapy method where they can reflect and repair their inner world. Today, sound therapists perform sample therapy on different children, but these and similar therapy methods are generally performed in closed rooms and places. However, it seems that there may be positive contributions to the quality and progresses of therapy with the presence of children in open area. On the other hand, research proposed that sample therapy can be an appropriate intervention in working with children with autism in education and rehabilitation center. The aim of this study is to test the feasibility of sample therapy method in open area. Generally, children with autism display certain behaviors such as a social communication disorder, lack of communication, repetitive and restricted behavior, and interest. Many different children can benefit from a garden or open space. Whether they are recovering from an operation, in the midst of traumatic experience, suffering from illness, or living with a permanent or profound mental or physical impairment. The term habilitation rather than rehabilitation is used to describe the treatment of the disabled. The outdoors is an ideal place to promote understanding and tolerance. Research has shown that exposure to natural open environment can have physiological and psychological benefits, including restoring attention, stimulating vitality, emotional recovery, and increasing family interaction. Being in touch with nature has a great benefits for children. It reduces the stress of life of children and helps them cope with power too. The research question in this study consists of some questions. How will sand play therapy in open area activities affect the health of children with autism, especially the development of their social skills? What is the design future of the sand play therapy area in the open area designed for children with autism? How can we evaluate or combine sand play pools for outdoor sand play therapy application? In the study, a mixed method including qualitative and quantitative methods was used to research the effect of the sand play therapy in open area technique use on children with autism. In this context, individual sample therapy for 8 sessions, 1 session per week, was given to the 2 children with Asperger syndrome who came to the case study for a certain period of time or regularly. Temporary therapy sessions were held in the summer months and on sunny days, as it was planned to be held outdoors. 8 sessions for each participant, and sessions times and days are adjusted according to the availability of the participants. Sample therapy sessions, which were held in the open area separately for each experiment, were recorded with the help of the observation techniques. The actions, behaviors, reaction, and progress of the participant in each sessions were noted and photographs were taken by the counselor. The method of this research purpose was applied in the several phases in order to make the study systematic and holistic. These phases are obtaining the necessary permissions and making informative presentation phase, planning and preparing the research area phase, selecting the experimental individual phase, pre-test phase, processing phase, post-test evaluation phase, surveying parent and teacher phase, and finally to offer important design criteria for the sand play therapy technique use phase. Before starting the study program, the researchers who graduate in landscape architecture complete the sample therapy and supervision training program and received the sample therapy certificate. In addition, supervision support was received from the sample therapist for the realization of the sessions. As a result of the interpretation of the sand trays formed by kinds in the sessions by the expert sand therapists, the effects of sand play therapy in the open area was shown. In addition, in order to measure the effect of sand play therapy in open areas on the development of social skills in the children with autism is showed too. It is important to take some precautions when sample therapy is done in open areas in the garden of the school or any related center. In individual therapies, keeping the garden quiet and peaceful is important in order to prevent the kinds laws of concentration and distraction. For these, the therapy program can be adjusted in open area when the garden is calm and quiet. By the choosing suitable corners in the garden or by using natural limiting elements, we can prevent other users in the garden from entering the therapy area. It is necessary to have the important materials required for sand play therapy. The sand, terrain, height, and miniature object and etc. It is recommended to use under shady tree or covered elements for protection from the sun. The child in the open area should be able to create his own world on the sand play terrain by himself or with his friends. Sample therapy will be carried out in the open area so that children can think freely and participate in this therapy as a play. Sample therapy is especially recommended for children who are sick, disabled, affected by divorce, exposed to family problems, and have any psychological disorders. Therefore, the design of implementation of sand playgrounds is recommended to be implemented in all urban playgrounds, especially in the special education school gardens, hospital gardens, in the gardens of health institutions where children are treated and in the gardens of private and state rehabilitation and education center. In addition, in the landscape architecture department, we recommended making barrier-free designs in our projects. It is important for us to make universal designs at all stages of the project, especially in circulation and transportation roads, equipment and seating, direction, signs, entrances, and lighting design, playground, and plant design. The aim of this project was to propose new design for the equipment needed in open green areas, taking into account the universal design principles. For these new designs have been proposed considering certain and important resources. These designs were tried to be explained with a three-dimensional hand drawing and sketch. The most important issues was to representation of designs to the equal and independent use of all individuals. The design proposals studied in the research can be applied in the future landscape and green space studies. Open green space should be designed for all people's recreation or social interaction activities. When landscaping equipment is not designed ergonomically and in accordance with the standard, the participation of individuals with disabilities in social life is limited due to reasons such as physical, mental, emotional, and social abilities. So, in order to disabled people to benefit from open green space, it is of great importance to carry out accessible and usable equipment design and implementation studies taking into account the standard. Finally, we want our students in the landscape architecture department of the INONU University to get into wheelchairs and do some experience before starting the designs. Thus, landscape architects of the future become more sensitive and conscious while designing. Meeting the disabled students studying at our university and identifying their problems will be a guide for our students. Within the scope of the barrier-free design approach course, our students examine the existing open space in terms of barrier-free design and identify the problems. These practical and applied studies will lead to the formation of permanent knowledge in them. Thank you so much for listening me.